Dear colleagues, especially journalists across South Sudan, I just would like to bring you a brief update. As you may already know, for the first time, the Union of Journalists of South Sudan was represented at the International Federation of Journalists Congress in France, which also led to election of new leadership at the IFJ. Now, I just want to bring to you something very brief on this is the working document of the IFJ Congress, which in our language here in South Sudan, in our constitution, for UJOs, we call it assembly. So this is the whole program. And one particular issue which is very important is the agenda of the meeting that took place. As I said, when you look at the first page here, it talks about the content. And when you look at the content, you find we have the agenda, the draft agenda as the first item of this meeting. And when you come to the agenda, let me tell you what happened when we arrived in France. We arrived in France, many of us arrived on Monday. The meeting also started on Monday, but the meeting did not start on Monday morning. The meeting started on Monday in the afternoon. It was supposed to start at 2, but it did not also start at 2 because we went to a theater in Paris, and from the hotel where we were staying to the theater took us about 1.5 hours. So the meeting basically started around 4 instead of 2. And on that day, and this is the agenda, it says international law in defense of press freedom. So they brought for us a lawyer who defended Julian Assange, who was, if you remember, supposed to be extradited to the US, but he was in the UK. So this lawyer was talking to us about how she and other colleagues worked to make sure that he is not extradited. After that, and that session was moderated by the president of the International Federation of Journalists. After that, we had 2 panel discussions, basically on artificial intelligence, how it is affecting the media. Then the day closed by some members of the union in France, basically welcoming people and so on, and the day closed. We moved to the next day, which now was Tuesday. On Tuesday, the president of the International Federation of Journalists opened the session officially now. When the session was opened, the first agenda was, and it is here known as election of the members of the Presidium and the Commission and vote on the rules of procedure. Basically, what they're saying is that election of the members of the Election Commission and the vote on the rules laid down by the Electoral Commission for this very Congress. So what happened is that the IFJ executive, what in Juba here or in South Sudan we call National Executive of UJOS, equivalent at the level of International Federation of Journalists, had already appointed, the IFJ had already appointed the Electoral Commission. So our first agenda on this Tuesday was to debate on the Electoral Commission. So the members were called before us, they were put in front, and people were asked if anybody had any objection as to any of the members being in the Electoral Commission. And nobody had objection. They also said if anybody had anything to say for those members to be there, also nobody came out to say anything. So by that, the decision was made that meant those people were recommended and accepted to carry out the election, to run the election, of which election was run through voting by phone or laptop or tablet. Basically, it was electronic voting, and we accepted it. Why am I bringing this, and why do I see this being very important? Is because when UJO's National Executive Committee appointed members of the election committee, which is according to our constitution, there have been some voices saying that that is a wrong move. I want to say that is not a wrong move. It is the same thing that happened at the International Federation of Journalists. Thank you.